Good morning and welcome to our presentation today. I am Christy Beatty and I have Erin Moody with me. Together we are Relics and Situ. We research, write, and lecture about historical needlework. And we're going to tell you a little bit about our business today so you can get a sense for what we can do for you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Erin.
Good morning, and I'm glad you've joined us. We want to present just a little sampler of some of our lectures and what the content is now that we are reformatting our business to include digital classes and format. So with that, we're going to jump right into some of our case studies. So here we have a Bible that was a historical piece made in the 17th century. This is part of the collection at the Houghton Library, a rare books collection at Harvard. And we see that it is in a custom-made case that holds the artifact, the embroidered artifact. And we're going to continue with some close-up shots.
This was a really remarkable little find. We do a lot of our research in libraries, taking a look at embroidered book bindings. And this was a really fun one because when we called up this book, the librarian handed it to us in a box. It was a leather tool box with some nice gold detailing. It was a pretty box. It had a little clasp, but it wasn't a book. So that when we opened the box, we were quite surprised to find this fantastic little piece. This is a presentation Bible, meaning that it was custom made to present to a prince or a king. And it's got some amazing gold work and raised techniques and some needle painting. That's fantastic. We'll take a closer look at.
So in more detail, we see a portrait here. It's needle painted. It's of Prince Charles, dated 1648, before he ascended to the throne as King Charles II of England. And here we're going to drill down and see the detailing of how minuscule the needlework is here in the detail of the lace collar, the buttons, the tie, and the detailing on the entire portrait is just exquisite. This piece in all is just about 3 by 4 inches. So this is a very, very skilled and professional piece.
And here is a close-up of the gold work. This is just fantastic. As Erin said, it's professional. This is something that would have been professionally made at the request of somebody who intended to present it to the prince as a gift. Here you can see the fantastic gold work. We've got pearl, we've got bullion. I particularly love the spangles that are held down by small pieces of bullion. And there was surprisingly little wear on this piece. It had obviously sat in its box. It had been presented to the prince and probably cataloged, kept in its box and put away on a shelf somewhere, and then handed down until it got bequeathed to the Harvard collection and kept in its box. And in fact, when we opened it up, even the librarians hadn't realized what was in the box. So we're really lucky that this piece was hardly ever touched, because we see very little evidence of wear on this, and we get to be the benefactors of seeing all this fantastic work that is still pretty well intact. The next piece that we're going to show you is a world away from that. This is a sampler in the collection of the Fitzwilliam in Cambridge, and I know a lot of people really love samplers and might be familiar with this piece or with the Fitzwilliam collection, which is tremendous. The samplers are fantastic because they have a huge variety, and they are one of the rare pieces of embroidery that people actually sign their own name to. So that's not only remarkable from a cultural standpoint, it's really helpful when you're doing some research and you can date these things. This one is done by a young woman named Elizabeth Calthorpe, as you can see here. And it was completed in 1686. I know that looks like a 5, but some of the stitches are missing, and it is 1686. This is done in exuberant colors. This is a band sampler from 1686, and it was really meant to help Elizabeth figure out colors and patterns and styles and balance. And she might have used this as a reference point for future embroideries, we often see that that samplers were really intended to be used to help the embroiderer work out motifs and patterns and for future work. And this is, it also, in addition to the flowers and the geometric motifs, it includes a pictorial of Abraham and the sacrifice of Isaac. And on the left-hand side, you can see Abraham and Isaac going to the sacrificial altar. And on the right-hand side is the moment where Abraham is sacrificing Isaac.
I want to bring your attention in detail to the figures of Abraham here. Now, one of the things about Relics in Situ is we love collections that are in not only museums, but libraries and universities. This is a university museum collection. And as many of you know, museums only display the very best pieces, like we saw with the presentation Bible. They're professionally done, they're exquisitely made, they're using the finest materials. But going into the collections, we also want to bring you into seeing the pieces that aren't typically displayed. They're imperfect, they're frequently made by young girls, they're using less than standard materials, but there is a lot to learn from these pieces. And these are the ones that aren't exhibited, that are found in the drawers and not loved. So we want to bring the love to you here. In this, let's look at Abraham's beard. You see very rough satin stitch. You see in his arm that's extended on the left, and over on the right side, also the long and shorts are incredibly uneven. You see him holding a sword over his head, also very uneven, unpracticed hand here. However, there are other parts here where are very good. The pattern darning embroidery on the coat on the left is really quite advanced in comparison to the other stitches. So this leads us to believe that this is a young girl at practice whose skill improves over the course of the sampler. Next, we have a casket also from Cambridge's Fitzwilliam Museum. And one of the things we want to bring to you that is very important to us is color matching. In studying historical needlework, having accurate colors and understanding period color palettes is very important. In the Jacobean period, which is what this casket is placed in, their palette was very specific. They didn't go outside of their standard colored range. But we found that even if we take really good notes and say that we're looking at a very pale apricot color, when you walk away, what is apricot? What is that to different people? And maybe it's more orange than pink to you. Also with photography, your eyes can be tricked. We'll see in the next slides how the color can vary. So what we do is we bring in an industry standard. We use a Pantone color deck. We match the colors meticulously to each piece of needlework so that we have a record of the static colors on the piece. And one of the stories we like to bring to you about historical color palettes, it's not that the colors weren't available or the dyes were not achievable. It's just understanding what the aesthetic is for each period in history so that we better understand the needlework. If you all remember back in the 1970s, you could get an avocado green or a harvest gold refrigerator, but you'd be very hard to find one today. It's not that it couldn't be made. It's just that the aesthetic is no longer in that color palette. So here we have a Jacobean color palette.
As Erin was mentioning, this piece is, these are two detailed pictures of the casket we were looking at before. And these are two pictures that I took personally within moments of each other. The picture on the left is a close-up detail of the bodice of the dress of the woman on the right. And you can see just from these two pictures that there really is a big shift in the color. So on the left, it's much brighter yellows and blues. On the right, it's much more mellow greens and golds. And really the only difference between those pictures was my distance from the piece And also I used flash on the left-hand side and not on the right-hand side. And those two items, those two variables really did cause a color shift. So if we were looking at the piece on the left and basing our understanding of a Jacobean color aesthetic just on that piece, on that picture on the left, it would really give us an inconsistent image. And when you're doing embroidery, you get to pick any colors you want. And that's okay. But what we're trying to understand is a mindset of a time period. And so that's why it's really important for us to take these, not only the photographs, but also our notes in the Pantone color deck so that we get a good and consistent look at things. Because even when we go home and we're looking at these pictures and doing our writing, sometimes even the Pantone color chip doesn't seem to match up with the color that we're matching on the item. And we really do trust the Pantone color deck because we really get a sense for there is so much shift in the colors when we take these pictures.
So in addition to in-person study, we've seen how looking at color is beneficial. We've seen the pieces that are rarely displayed. Another highlight we want to bring to you in this case study is being able to see the underneath, the sort of behind the scenes of needlework study. So here we have a piece of black work that's part of the collection of the Embroiderers Guild in the UK. And we were graciously led through this by Anthea Godfrey, who's one of the trustees. And we're going to play a little video here to illustrate what we can see with this. So,
but before we get to that video, we wanted to show you some, Erin?
We have it. Sorry, Christy. We have it. We have some detail here. This is all me. The detail here of the black work is it's a bit of a quandary as with this research here. This piece, it's pieced together black work, and this is its own study. We can do an hour-long lecture on just this piece of black work.
Erin, I'm gonna flip back to the previous screen so we get a sense for the overall, and then back up to the close-up detail.
So we could go on and on about this, but what I want to bring your attention to is that it's an incongruous piece. The black work is not done in a traditional way. Someone's cut it out and slapped it back together with pieces that don't match, and even the outlines don't match. However, as we'll see in the video, there's more to it than just this curiosity. So you can see when I turned it over, we found that someone had tacked the black work onto not just a parchment, but was an actual letter. And we're right now transcribing this letter, which is a financial document, but you can see that this is something the trustees were unaware of until I did turn it over. It's a curiosity. It's going to be fascinating to know what the entire document talked about and what period we're going to place it in when we've transcribed it. However, it's these kind of curiosities that can delve you deeper into the study of needlework. Sometimes turning the pieces over, you can understand the stitchery better, or if the piece is degraded a bit in color distortion or quality, turning it over, you can see probably a better idea of the original color and the content.
So we presented just a little bit about what our lectures are, what we offer, and what we've accomplished. We do offer, in addition to the lectures themselves, workshops that center around small stitching projects where our emphasis is on historically accurate materials and stitches and learning about the period aesthetic. And here is a sampling of pieces that we've stitched and that are representative of our workshops that we offer. We understand that it's really necessary to continue educational activities during this time of social distancing, and we want to make a concerted effort to translate our programs into an online format to continue to reach out to people who really love needlework and historical needlework. So thank you for letting us speak to you today about what we do. As you can see, here's our website, Relics and Situ. We are on Instagram and Facebook, as well as Pinterest and Etsy. And if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out and ask anything you need. Thank you so much.